Welcome to the next episode of on European Dodgeball Federation for our podcast. We'll be hosting today, following on from our last one, which seemed to go down quite a success. We are now going to be catching up with Annika, and we're going to be talking all things women's dodgeball and international dodgeball and mixed dodgeball, a whole host of topics today. But yeah, so with us today we've got myself, Nick. If you haven't met me before, I was on the previous EDF podcast at the end, and Emily is also going to be hosting with us today, who was there on the previous end of Euros podcast as well. But new to the podcast, we have Annika. Welcome. Do you want to just say a bit about yourself, a bit about your experiences, what you've done in dodgeball, where you're at now?
Yeah, so I play dodgeball since 2012. So that's when I played my first tournament in Vienna, and I was invited to my first Euros in 2013. And since then, I'm somehow involved in dodgeball. I missed a few Euros, but apart from that, I almost got the whole experience of Dodgeball Austria.
Nice. Yeah, it is kind of one of those things that when you get into dodgeball, it does just suck your life away. In a good way. I will clarify that. We all enjoy dodgeball in that way. So, yeah, I don't know. Has Emily? Have you been playing dodgeball that long, or
Just slightly longer.
just slightly longer? Okay.
Yeah, just an extra 2 years.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I'm the baby of the group. I've only been around since I did play in 2016 a bit, but not competitively until 2019. But yeah, no, wow, that's quite some it's quite a resume. So when did you start playing internationally, or when did you make the international team? Shall I say? When was your international debut?
Mine
Yes,
Yeah.
Annika. Sorry,
in 2013.
2013. So
So
a year of
yeah,
playing.
Wow, it's pretty quick.
not even. So I played one tournament in 2012 in November, and then there was another one in I think May 2013, and it was supposed that the winners of the tournament in 2013 go to the Euros. But that team didn't want to go, didn't have time, I don't know. But because we won the tournament in 2012, Nicola Studeni knew me and asked me if I wanted to join because we didn't have enough players. We never played really, like it was just a fun tournament. Um, and yeah, I struggled a bit because it was my 18th birthday
Wow.
on that tournament. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know anyone there. I don't even know the sport. I don't know the rules. It's, yeah, whatever. Um, and then she said, yeah, you can bring a friend if you want. So I talked my cousin into it, and she came with me, and that's how it started.
So did your cousin play or did she just come with you? Yeah.
No, she also played, yeah.
And does she still play or was it just a one time?
She did play for some time, but then she quit. But she's actually Basti Mitterau's sister.
Ah.
Ah, yeah.
So I don't know if you knew, but Basti is my cousin, and Sarah and me played, and then at some point, yeah, we made him play as well,
Yeah.
and then he stayed playing, and Sarah didn't. So
Yeah.
yeah, but we always try to bring her back. So if you hear that, counting on you.
Explains why you put Basti as one of your favourite players then, because I mean we all love Basti, but yeah, no, it explains it. That's a good tie to have. So you found your way into dodgeball. You sort of kind of dragged into it, and does that mean you played some fun sort of internal like within Austria competitions, and then made your debut after? Is that kind of how it happened? You had your
Yeah,
local tournament and then got in. Was that
yeah.
like
So that
a
was like a really fun tournament. Everybody was in funny costumes and stuff, and big after party. So it wasn't like that, uh, yeah, big of a competition as it is now. So I never thought anything would, yeah, come from that. It was just a friend of mine from school, Xaver Schmidt, who you might know as well, um, asked me back then if I wanted to join because they were looking for a girl playing with them. And I said yes, and that's, yeah, how it started.
I guess, was this before like teams started having regular training sessions? Was it just turn up and play at tournaments, or were there a few training sessions around to go to? Like, what was that experience like?
I think the first training session was in 2014. So when
Wow.
we played the Euros in 2013, we didn't even know each other before. So the only person I knew before going there was my cousin Sarah and Nicola and Max, I think, because they were the people organizing everything. But I didn't know any one of my teammates.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I guess leading on, obviously, you first started. It's quite fun. It's not really that serious. Like, when was it that one Austria started getting more serious, and then also you started getting more serious about the game?
I think when we played and were on court, we were always serious about the game
Mm.
at Euros. But I think before the Euros 2014, we had the first few training sessions as a team.
Mm-hmm.
We also didn't even know each other. But I think that's when it got more serious and when people started thinking about the game and what tactics we could use and stuff. And so for me, it was always whenever I was on court, I wanted to play my best and win. And also, we came fourth at our first ever Euros without knowing each other, without knowing many rules, with stepping on lines probably every set, three people. Yeah, but it kind of worked.
Yeah.
Nice. What do you think it helps you guys in Austria? Like for women coming into the game, it definitely seems like you've just got touch wood, a somewhat endless pool of talent that just keeps coming through, and just people that are always very naturally gifted at dodgeball and getting really stuck in and not being afraid to just go hard in these competitions. Like what do you think brings that out? Is that an Austrian mentality or is it a European mentality? What do you reckon it is?
I don't know. I think we just found a few people that were already very into sport, but a lot of them didn't have a sport they still competed in. So they were competitive as their character was, but they didn't have another sport they competed in. So they were very happy to um, put everything into that. Um, and I think if you find everyone around you with that mentality, you also adapt to that. So I think we never lost the fun and stuff about it, but it was always clear that when we play, we want to win.
I mean, that's
So
the best of both worlds, to have all of the fun and also win. Because you don't want to be win and be miserable about it because it's just
Yeah,
not fun.
definitely.
I mean, I definitely feel like we always said here that like we often find that people play their best when they're playing happy,
Mm.
and like just as soon as like the stress goes out of the brain, like people are relaxed about playing, and they just like kind of go with instinct. Obviously, there's still tactics and stuff you need to follow, but when you've been playing long enough and you get the instincts going, when you're happy, you just like get in the flow and start playing well. So I imagine that's a pretty good way of getting people into
Yeah,
dodgeball. If people are enjoying themselves, and that's when you start teaching the tactics. I guess it just gets like ingrained in you from an early point.
yeah. And I think at some point, just everybody asked their friends if they want to join. So we had some more already sportive people who did various different sports, who have different backgrounds, but everybody did another sport before they played dodgeball, I think. That's also very helpful in like understanding the game and having the mentality of training and competing and stuff. So I think I don't know if we have anyone in the women's national team who didn't compete in another sport before.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like that's fairly common. I think I could probably count on one hand the people I know in dodgeball that didn't play another sport beforehand. But maybe, I don't know, maybe Nick knows more people that never didn't play before.
I think, I don't know. I think it's different because like when you're a kid, I guess it depends on your background. Like different people play different sports, like because of what they're brought up in. Like football just seems to be everywhere because who doesn't have like a garage to kick a ball at, pretending it's a goal, like that kind of thing. But I mean, definitely in the UK. But yeah, like sort of for us, I think like a lot of people get our biggest pathway into dodgeball is university. Like I think that's the way it's been for a long time, if I'm not mistaken, Emily. So Austria, it sounds like it's very different. It's very much you're reliant on like bringing friends of friends in and like having good ties with other sports to be like, oh yeah, we also play dodgeball. Like if you want to come along, and then they come into dodgeball, realize how awesome it is, and then they get stuck into it. Which I think I may be wrong, but I feel like we struggle with a bit in the UK is that we all play dodgeball, but we're so focused on dodgeball we don't necessarily do the recruiting in other sports. We just play a lot of dodgeball.
Yeah, I think when I started playing dodgeball and there were no trainings, everybody had another sport besides dodgeball. So we were competing dodgeball and another sport and training more of the other sport than we did dodgeball. And that obviously changed. So we had to make people give up their former sport to, like myself as well, to be dodgeballers.
So what did you used to play before, out of curiosity? What was your experience?
I was dancing.
Dancing? Ah, nice. Cool. That's quite a change. I mean, it definitely probably helps with dodging, I imagine. Being light on feet and stuff.
Yeah, I was doing gymnastics for years and years, and then I was dancing. And then somehow I got into dodgeball.
Yeah.
I mean, I was also a dancer before dodgeball. As well. Yeah.
Wow. Disappointingly, I used to play tennis, hockey, and golf. So a little bit different. But yeah, no, definitely found a good place in dodgeball. So for your experience when you were playing non-internationally, when you were playing at the club level, when you were playing at tournaments, was it set up that you had like a men's and women's side, and there was enough players to have women's tournament, or did you sort of mix in with the men, or did you have like a men and a mixed tournament? Like how did it kind of go in the early days, and like sort of how did it go up from that to having what you have now, where you have a men's, a mixed, and a women's tournament?
I think all of the fun tournaments Dodgeball Austria did, like almost all of them, were mixed. It was 4 boys and at least 2 girls on court.
Oh,
and
very cool.
We still do that for fun tournaments or beach cups and stuff. Max will kill me if I say something wrong.
Beach dodgeball.
Yeah, but I think all the fun tournaments were mixed.
Right. That's another thing that we don't have here. But do you want to explain a bit like what beach dodgeball is and how that works? Because we do not have the luxury of A, having any nice beaches and sand here, or B, playing beach sports in general.
Yeah, we also don't have that many beaches, like sand beaches, but we play on beach volleyball courts. And there were, I don't know how many, but for some years, every year, one beach cup at Neusiedlersee. So there's a big lake that you could also swim in, and it was a very, very, very fun tournament every time, because you had that beach summer feeling and dodgeball at the same time. That was perfect.
Nice.
And yeah, you just play on sand. That's basically it.
Cool. It makes the tombstone catches a lot easier, I guess. Just hit backwards.
Yes, but it's so hard to run and be fast. It's just so much more exhausting, and it's super hot most of the time. But it's great fun, yeah.
Sounds it.
I feel like the only equivalent thing we have here is that occasionally they'll do an outdoor cage tournament, but it's like on like tarmac or like AstroTurf, and it is not forgiving.
No, yeah, it's like on a playground or something usually, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, that's why we like to play normal dodgeball in nice sports halls with nice sprung floors where we can dive around all over the floor. But So you still, so that sounds like a really good way of like introducing people into the sport. How do you find like when women come into the sport, like how do you find like them mixing in with the men? Are they quite often like because they've played another sport, pretty happy to just go, yeah, I can take it on, it's fine? Or do you often feel like you have to coach them, or do you often have like players that just want to play women's only?
It depends, but I think people get used to it very, very fast because we always only train mixed. So I, for example, yeah, we always play with the boys. We just sometimes separate it for like half an hour or something, and at a national team level. But for new women joining the sport, it's always mixed. So I think they just adapt and get used to it pretty fast.
Yeah, because we were talking about earlier this week, we were saying so quite a lot in the UK now we have quite large squads. So I know that like my team, we train predominantly separate the women's and the men's, only really doing mixed specifically for mixed tournaments and leagues. So we're finding it quite difficult now to get more women involved in the mixed because they just don't play against the men very often, and it means that they've built up almost a fear of playing against the men, so they just don't like to play mixed. So we're like kind of at the point where it's like it's great because we've got loads of women playing women's dodgeball and that's good.
Mm.
But at the same time, we just so struggle to fill mixed. So like we've got all of these leagues, but then the mixed leagues are so small because you just can't get the number like the women for it. All the guys want to play, but we just don't have enough women to support the amount of men that want to play pretty much.
I mean, they're not tiny. We do have 4 leagues, which is pretty good, but yeah, it is completely different to the actual like national men's and women's leagues. But yeah, I think the other side is like from us. You were saying like how you sort of recruit from like friends of friends and like people who already play sports. We tend to like at club level, we find it hard to sort of, well, at least from my experience, we found it kind of hard to bring new women in, and we try and have like women only sessions to sort of entice people in because of that sort of stigma of being new to a sport and just like being around people that you feel more comfortable playing against. And as such, like with that being the enticement, people tend to come only for the women only sessions, which means that they that sort of gets trapped in a loop, which is fine because it's really great that women's dodgeball is going well, but it means that experience for mixed is slightly different. But
Yeah. But on a
no.
club level, we also always struggle to get more women involved in the sport.
If you would say one thing, and I'm putting you on the spot here, one thing to entice a new person to come try out dodgeball as a woman to play dodgeball, what would be like your one thing you'd say to them to like sell them the sport to come and join in?
Wow.
No pressure.
No pressure.
I think I'd say it's just fun people and always a good time in training, at competition, always. So it doesn't really matter whether you're good or not, or want to play like super high level and be into it, or just come to training once a week and enjoy it. It both can be super fun.
100% here for that. I'd echo that, but I can only say so so much. Cool. Emily, any other thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, I just totally agree. I think it's promoting the fun atmosphere and everything like that that really gets people involved a lot better. Like rather than like some people you can sell the competitive side if they come in, they've come from another sport and that's what they're looking for. But I think the majority of the time, like people want to play dodgeball because they want to have a good time. So you can never forget that.
Yeah, definitely. So you're part of the Nasty Nutcrackers. Is that the name of the club? That's the full name of the club. So where are you guys based as a club?
In Vienna.
In Vienna. Well, there's quite a few Vienna-based clubs then.
Yes.
Nice.
Almost. Yeah, awesome.
How many teams do you guys have in Nasties? Do you have like men's, women's, mixed? Is it quite a few or quite a big club?
We just have one per division.
Cool.
Or do we have two men's? I mean, and a fewer play. No, we have two men's teams. I just mixed it up because we also have a youth league that's new this year, And a few of our younger players are also competing in the second league.
That's very cool. That's good going.
Yeah.
Definitely an ambition of many clubs here to make sure
Yeah.
that there's a youth.
Also, we
Youth
also
division
have a
club.
women's second team. I totally mixed it up with the youth league now. Sorry.
So a
Yeah, but
lot
we
more
always
teams.
struggle with finding women. We have a lot of girls, so we have more younger girls than boys. But we don't have many women.
Wow.
That's always hard. Yeah.
It's an interesting place to be.
So we need them to grow up a little faster so they can play with us.
Cool.
Yeah, because that's another interesting thing that I've noticed. That because so at the junior level we don't have split leagues, so we don't have like women's and men, like girls and boys leagues. It's just mixed. So I'm finding that like the junior players that are coming through, because they've played the mixed, they will play the mixed then as adults.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting because the thing is with previous to this, everything's come through universities and everything's split now at universities because Bucks League, which is like the university league, that's all men's and women's now. There's like very little mixed, but I think because it's now we're growing from the juniors rather than from the universities, I think that everything's going to switch again, which would be interesting. That'd be cool to see.
It also means like the junior side is completely different, right? Because those of us that joined during university picked it up because we didn't really want to do any of the other sports, and it looked like the fun thing to do. The people that have been playing it since like they were a kid, like that's their football now. Like that is their the sport that they've been playing for years, that they've been getting really good at. And they come along to the adult leagues, and then you just like they've been playing for like basically the same amount of time as you've been playing, but about half your age, and you're just suddenly like So yeah, very, very, very different.
And they are completely fearless. That's impressive.
Yeah. Yes. Like nothing phases them. Like it's just like they give them a few years of experience. I'm quite excited for the point where we get to like Euros and Worlds and stuff like that when it's mostly people that have been playing from when they're kids, because I think the game is going to hit another level, and I think the tactics are going to completely change because they've been in it for so much longer and had so much time to think about how they're going to do it. I think it's going to be really exciting once.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to myself and other people of my age, but by the time we've retired and all of the younger players have come up.
Well, there's a European Junior League, isn't there, this year? I believe in Italy. So yeah, if you want to go see the talent in the future, that's probably where you want to be going. But yeah, I guess on that point, it's probably worth talking about how women's like international dodgeball, or women's dodgeball in general, has changed in terms of like play style and sort of what used to be, back in the days of 3-ball. Things have changed a bit more to the 5-ball era. It's forced somewhat of a change in play style, and I definitely know there's a difference in general play style with how England and Great Britain play women's dodgeball, and the Europeans play dodgeball with, I'd say, the Europeans being far more aggressive and being far more confident in their throws, which definitely impacts mix as well. We'll get onto that later. But yeah, from from your perspective, Annika, like as you've been playing, has there been much of a difference in play styles as you've been playing, or do you feel like it's just play styles have evolved as people have understood the game more, or how have you felt like the women's game has changed over time? Like, do people take it more seriously? Like, obviously people might take it more seriously, but do people take the tactics more seriously and look at like that, or is it just do the basics well?
Yeah, I know. I think it completely changed. So from 3-ball to 5-ball, that was like the biggest transition. Playing 3-ball was more of like it was more about only the throwers, I feel like. And like catching was easier. So there were a few people who always caught, but they couldn't be the catchers in 5-ball. Like not all of them. And it just got way faster. So the whole game got faster, and if you couldn't keep up with that increasing tempo, your throw and your catch wasn't worth anything. Because when you had a team coming at you like counter-wise, you were out as well. So that was, in my opinion, the biggest change. And then from that point on, I think a few teams started to play 5-ball as they were playing 3-ball, but that didn't work out. So they had to come up with new tactics and new plans. But I think almost every team, yeah, did that well. Some faster than others. But yeah, how did ours change? Yeah, it got faster and more aggressive, probably, as you said, year by year.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's worth bringing up because I had a look at the 2017 Euros in Glasgow. So this is obviously the first 5-ball Euros. This is the women's final. So it was quite remarkable watching this. Yeah. So like there's so many pre-throws here.
Yeah.
So which is a massive like carryover from the 3-ball game. So it's looking at this feels like everyone's just adapting their 3-ball game into a 5-ball game. Yeah. Like most throws are like all of the balls, or you just keep one. Like nobody's throwing, like there's very few single balls being thrown. There's very few like double. Again, like a 3-ball attack. Like there's no delays. Like the tactics seem so much more like less complicated, but not in a good way. Like it's very backwards and forwards. Like no one's like high up court. Everyone's at the back of court. So yeah.
Right.
It's like lane. Like, this is so weird to see, but like lane discipline as well. Like in terms of like when you're going up to throw and then coming back, people are sort of crisscrossing all over the place, and it's a lot more like a heads up dodgeball, as it were. That was a really good counter.
Yeah.
Like that because nowadays I think people are more hesitant to do that because they're like, oh, someone's up court, there's going to be protection and stuff like that. Not going to run up and try and do like a quick hit or anything. It's very much more.
But like Anna and me were always into counter attacks.
We do look at counters.
Yeah, we're right. Again, 3-ball attack.
Yeah. And it's just like so. I don't know if you've got the next game sorted out. So then looking at 2023.
One thing that I've definitely noticed, I feel like the number of multi-ball throws has definitely reduced. Like people are a lot more confident in their single ball throws and their positioning of it and being aggressive and like picking people off. Whereas like in the video that we saw just then, there was a lot more chaos in terms of multiple balls going in the same direction, counters being multi-ball releases, and especially as we've like standardized that we're definitely doing more like we've got nets behind us now to make sure like pretty much all events have nets and things like that. Ball retention becomes like more of a thing. Like there's so many buzzwords that like we're so used to talking about, but I guess like 10 years ago or whatever, these are not things that we'd be thinking about, like time management and like game management, but ball possession, like who you're targeting, and whether you're playing like a counter-based game or whether you're playing an aggressive like 2-ball game, whatever you want to be doing. There's all sorts of like ways people bring up tactics into dodgeball now. But here we go. We've got this set at 6:04.
And also everybody seemed so stressed on court on the other video, and here it's more of like everybody has their role and knows exactly what to do in what position, and
that's the thing. Yeah, we've got position like there's sort of I don't know what you do in Austria. So yeah, single ball throw there. And is this what I mean about lanes? Like people are just tracking back. They know where they're going to. They know where they're returning to. But like so in Austria, I don't know. I guess different clubs name them differently here in the UK as well. But you have like the wingers, you have inside wing players, and then centre players. Is that kind of how you guys look at it as well, or do you look at it a bit differently?
Yes, kind of.
So
still... I mean, there, it sometimes changes, obviously, but yeah, that's how it is basically.
Great, yeah. And do you have like a set caller, or do you have like still the caller on the left, or do you have like one caller that will call all the time, or?
the person on the left is always calling.
Yeah, it's funny how these kind of like
Except-
standards have like picked up throughout and like dodgeball. Everyone does the same thing, right?
Yeah, except for sometimes in the past we also did from the right if like the wingers were the most experienced players, for example, and we said when the left winger is out, then the right winger is the next caller because they were the most experienced, for example. But right now that everybody is so experienced and like knows what to do, and there's not many new people at that level, it's like almost always from the left.
That's really interesting because like Emily and I were talking about this earlier about like trying to train new callers is really difficult because like when you're in a dodgeball game, like once you play for a while, you kind of take for granted if you're just playing like how much is going on that you end up getting used to being aware of. Like there's 5 balls going all over the place. There's 5 other people on your team. There's 6 people on the other side running up and down. You've got 6 referees screaming different things. Like there's quite a lot going on. If you're a captain, there's more to think about because you've got to think about when you're taking timeouts and things like that. But if you're a caller as well, like not only have you got to pay attention like you're normally playing, if you're a winger, you've then got to pay attention to when you're countering and what the opposition are doing and the number of balls you have. And then if you're a caller, you need to like do all of that. And on top of that, look at who's left, who you're targeting, where you're targeting, how long's left in the set, how long's left in the half, what you got. Like there's so much to go into it. Do you guys? Is it just you guys rotate so much in the position that you guys all get experience at calling, or do you have a secret plan of how you train your callers?
I think it's just a lot of experience and a lot of people being callers in the league. So they can all do it on international level. So I, for example, almost always call, no, not always, but very often play left and call in the league. So even though I'm more of a middle or half wing player at international level, once I come out, I know exactly what I want to happen. So I think that's how it probably, developed.
Oh, very interesting.
But yeah, it is very, very different to be to call for like a league day or something. So for me, it's totally different. I mean, it's just the level of being exhausted in the evening is completely different.
Yeah, the mental fatigue really kicks in, at least from my experience.
But it's one of those things. I feel like it'd be so good if everyone was good at calling because it's not just being able to call, but it's also you just become so much more aware of the game. So even if you're not calling but you know how to call, you're still already thinking, well, what we're going to do next and what does this mean and this mean? Like I know that if I'm playing with somebody that also calls, I can tell them how long's left in the set and how many players were up or down, and they can make a decision based on that, but only because they're a caller. Whereas like other people that don't do that, that's meaningless to them. Like they're like, well, what does that mean? Like, oh, we've got a minute left and we're 2 players down. I'm like, well, that means you need to go harder because we need to make some hits because you need to turn the game around. But like they've just never had to think about that. They just get told what to do. So it means that they don't have that same game awareness. So you just have to then, I mean, in an ideal world, I'd just make everyone call and then they'd all experience it, but that's not particularly feasible. So then you've just got to think, okay, now how do I make this, like what I already have in my brain, how do I put this simply so that somebody else knows what I mean when I just say something, rather than being like, well, I've told you this information, you should be able to figure it out. You have to be like, right, I'm just going to give you this code word and that's going to change what your attitude on court is.
Yeah, 100% agree. But it's also very hard because you can't say like whenever you're 2 people up, for example, then that's the right call. Or whenever you have that much time left, then that's the right play style. So we have a few younger player, and whenever they come to me and ask me something, my first answer is it depends, because there's so much more to think about with your answer. So there's no strict game plan that you can always follow and win with it. That is really hard. But yeah.
I think that's why like dodgeball's evolving so quickly, and it's fascinating to see how like coaches and teams evolve in terms of their calling, but also how the rules have to evolve with it in some way. Because, like you're saying, if you're 2 players down with a minute to go, that means a lot of different things. Like that, you feel like that's quite a clear circumstance. Like, oh, clearly you want to win it, so you want to go harder. But like, well, are you actually up in the match overall? Like, is it early in the second half? Is it late in the second half? Is it the second set? Is it, those kind of things? What players do you have on court? Did they hit out all your wingers and you just have centre players left? On the other side of the court, are they mainly wingers and only, so like all these kind of things, like, and I think people are starting to get better at like identifying who's on the other side of the court, what they're good at, because we talk about the dodgeball family a lot. We know a lot of faces when we're playing dodgeball because we play them so regularly. And when there's a new player that comes in, like everyone socializes and gets to know people, so you end up finding new people quite quickly. So people are getting better and better at analyzing that, and then the calling's changing as such. And I found it really interesting, especially in like the mixed in the 2023 Euros, was like I felt like England's tactic was to specifically pick on everyone else in the team. So Nikki and was one of the last people left, like quite a few of the times, and she's an incredible player. She just can't beat 5 people. Like, and they always picked a situation where it was, okay, we're just going to pick off one person at a time to then force like one of their best players to be in a situation where it's really hard to dig yourself out of a hole. And then Austria did like the complete opposite way around, where they just went like they're going to pick everyone off and try and almost, in the second half you saw Austria like retaliate. We're going to force some of their best players to try and, Steve and Arnie, like they really put them in corners at time and be like, right, try and fight yourself out of this corner. And it was a real to and fro match, and it's just really interesting to see what's going to happen next year. Like who, what's the next tactic. Yeah. That's sorry, that was my ramble on on tactics and dodgeball. But yeah, I guess on that, like because one thing that we wanted to talk about was sort of women in mixed dodgeball as well. And I know that you play mixed for the Nasties, but there's always been like a bit of a experience gap when it comes to what people do in mixed with the role of women. Some people see women as just really good catchers. So leave them in to focus on catching, and then men just throwing. But we found that it depends on the team. Like when we've been watching Austria, that's not the case. Everyone just gets like muddled right in. Like doesn't matter who you are. And to be fair, it doesn't matter what throw you're up against. You're up against something coming at you fast. So how do you find that in sort of like in national leagues and stuff like that? What is sort of the role of women in mixed teams and how are they treated?
I think you can't give everyone the same role, and also it's very important that men understand that their role in mixed is completely different than in men's. So they can't just play the men's game and have 3 other players, the women, like they have 3 other men players. And that's often the problem, I think. So you have to, like, everyone has another role, as in their just men or just women's team, and everyone has to understand that. I personally don't think it's only about catching. I think when the women always stay alive and the men's pressure when the girl throws is so good that the girl can also take out other players, then she did everything right. Because like, how likely is it that you get that final catch when you're alone on court against, I don't know how many players? That's like, yeah, soccer being the goalie at the penalty. If you do it, you're the hero, but you can't expect on a like that won't happen very often. You can't rely on that. So when you have women that just stay on court, like, I think that's half the win.
Yeah, I'd say it sounds simple, but staying on court is half of dodgeball, to be honest. Like, if you can survive longer and you can survive better than the opposition, then usually you're in a good place.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of like, as a woman, like just go for every catch, because you're not as important on court. Because you definitely don't have to. I mean, yeah, your role is different than a man's, that for sure. But it's not only about catching, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I find that like women just have to be more adaptable in mixed. You almost kind of have to do every role. Like, you need to be a good thrower, you need to be a good catcher, you need to be a good dodger, and you almost have to fit more to the scenario. Where, I mean, maybe this is just a judgment on UK men's players, but I find that the men tend to be a bit more singular in the mixed focus. Like, they tend to do a lot of the throwing and they tend to be more about the throwing, whereas with the women, they've got to be able to fit, you know, every shoe kind of thing on court, you know, because as soon as like the guys are out, it's like, well, now, you know, we are the main throwers, we're having to make those hits and stuff like that. So the how they play really changes as a set goes on, depending on how it's going.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
it's...
but I think
Sorry, go on.
I think men also have to adapt very much, because if they don't, then they just play their men's game and then like forget about, like, they have to do their part to let the women's how do you say that, to like let them shine. If they don't do their part as a woman, you're just kind of left out in the game, because if you don't throw and you're always the last person in, yeah, then you can't do a lot about it. But if you yourself as a girl understand your role in it, and the boys understand it, and they know how to, like, because most of the time they're the callers, they how to let you shine and make your how do I say that, like, give you the chance to do the things you can do good. Yeah. I think that's their role.
Yeah. I mean,
it's one of those things I'll... Oh,
I was just going to say, mixed is, at the end of the day, it's like dodgeball is a team game, and mixed is still a 6-player v 6-player game. It's not a 3v6 game, and therefore everyone has to play the game. And even in men's game to a certain extent, like, usually you have 3 balls usually as a majority, and almost always the tactic is you spend the balls to the wingers, and then someone in the middle picks up the ball. If you've got 2 wingers, then that one ball that gets distributed amongst 4 other players, like, that means that the other people don't get involved as much. And it's important to keep passing it around so that you keep people involved in the game and focused, because if you don't get up, at least this is my view on it, if you don't get up to speed of the game, if you've not got the adrenaline pumping, if you don't feel like you've been running up and back down court, if someone comes and throws the ball at you and you're at the back of court, your reaction time to, like, dodge out the way is going to be that little bit slower, because you've been doing nothing but standing at the back of the court. And I think that's why, especially in mix, it's really important that everyone gets involved.
Yeah, but also you can do a lot if you're not a thrower. So for example, I don't know if, like, how well you know her, but Anna Polani, for example, she was always one that also goes, like, not as high to the front as the throwers, but she goes with them. So whenever a pre-throw from the other team comes, she was ready to catch that behind them. Or whenever a ball, like, popped up from wherever or something happened, or she could at least retrieve a ball back so that the other team doesn't have it. So you still can do a lot of things even though you're not the person throwing in front. Or fake it.
I think, well, I think we've called that shadowing before, but I don't know what you've called it, Emily. It's like you're basically the shadow of the person in front, and you're trying to, like, you know, make sure that you're there for any rebound catches. But yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, it's a team game. And like, dodgeball is one of those really weird things of, like, it's sometimes like having 6 individuals, like, is nowhere near as good as having, like, 6 individuals with great talent is not as good as necessarily having 6 individuals with adequate talent that are just, like, best mates and have played with each other for quite a long time and know each other inside and out. And that's, building that chemistry and mix, I think, is really important as well.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree.
So I thought Emily was going to say something then. So.
No. My face just looks like that sometimes, where people think I'm going to say something, and I'm just really intently listening.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how the mix is going, and definitely like we saw this year like some teams took mix really seriously in Euros and completely changed the way that people are playing it, and or at least the focus of mixed, which is just great to see that there's real like challenges coming up. Like Spain did a really good job, Croatia did a pretty good job of showing their ability in mixed, and I think like even in the women's as well, like it's cool to see different play styles coming through, and like different teams almost being built around certain play styles, right? Like the Italian team are like really quick up and down court, but also really like insanely good at catching. Their throws are like pretty good, but they're not like Austrian level good, but they are rapid around the court, and it's just then the French team are a completely different team as well, and England play differently. I think it's cool to see that we've gone from the chaotic days of everything going on, like what do we do? We've got 5 balls, to a lot of the strategy that we see now. What are you most excited for women's dodgeball coming up in the future in general, like internationally, nationally? What gets you excited about women's dodgeball?
Personally for myself, Worlds. This August, but like long term, I want to see one of the girls I train right now being in the national team. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
And going to Italy with them this summer is like a mini step to that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I don't know if anyone's going from the UK, I'll be honest.
Have you seen England's social media today?
No, I haven't. I've been working.
Yeah, so England Dodgeball have said they're going to do after WECs they're going to have a discussion with the various junior teams around the country to discuss about making an England junior team. I don't know if they're going to do it in time to take a team to Italy, but that they're now going to start looking to it, which will be very exciting because I know that there's because we have quite a lot of junior leagues and stuff, and then once they're 14, am I correct, they can play in the adult division in the UK.
I'm not going to formally confirm it, but I think it's about that, yes.
Yeah, I think it's 14 with parental permission, so there's quite a lot of the younger people that play in the adult leagues, but you can't be a part of you can't be part of the England squad or any of the national squads until you're 16. So there's like this little gap in between where they're actually playing like in the National League. Like some of like the Spartans guys, they play in the first division, and they're like 15, 16, or are they older than that? I am terrible at telling how old like younger people are now.
I'd say they're about that age. I don't know.
Yeah.
They used to play at Virtue, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, I think also it's the fact that once you've got the national teams with that junior division, I think that makes it so much easier. They just step back straight into that national team, and then it's just going to elevate the game even further. So I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm interested to see how England do juniors. That's what I'll say.
Me too.
So how did Austria come about doing juniors then? What's the story with Austrian juniors? So has it been like different clubs? Has it been a bit more formal with how you've set it up versus how you came into dodgeball, where it was just like throw it in, or has it been like you've got an Austria junior club and you just sort of say, oh, if you're interested in playing junior dodgeball, come to the Austrian training session, or does it do it by clubs, or how do you guys do it?
No, it started when the school I went to formed a like kind of club of where like former students, teachers, parents, or whoever could come up with an idea and offer for students to do sports, but not only at school in the afternoon. And as my aunt is still a teacher there, she told me about that, and I said, okay, I'm going to do to offer a dodgeball course. And I do that since then, which is I think 4 or 5 years now. I do it with Leni, so Magdalena Metzler, number 19 from Austria. And yeah, we started with a few students, like sometimes there were 5 kids. And now this year, I think we have 45
Ow.
kids playing regularly. Yeah, so it like every year there's more and more. Throughout the year, we have so many parents asking us, like, yeah, my child wants to play dodgeball. Where and how can they join and stuff? And I think this year is also the first year where also another club has a junior like training session, and that's why we also started doing the youth league. And
Nice.
that started only a few weeks ago, and is really, really funny.
So how do you separate kids by age groups, or do you,
Yes.
what are your age groups that you run with, out of curiosity? Just because I think one thing we struggle with is that, I mean, at least in Leeds, we have a difficulty with lots of people asked to play, but never enough from one age group. It's always like spread throughout the age groups. How do you guys manage it?
Like in the league, we separated, like also in training, we separated in like from 10 to 12, and then from 13 to 15, like around that.
Very cool. And are they same? Do you play with cloth balls as well, or
Yes.
for all? Yeah.
Also same rules and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, we do. We do
Yeah.
it really oddly. I mean, in comparison here, so like each age group has a different rule set, and well, it's more aligned now. But like the under 11s play with foam balls, and they only play
I'm
with
happy if they understand the one rules.
yeah, and then they go to under 13s, and now they don't play with foam balls anymore. They play with cloth balls, and then the
But
game's only
smaller
2 minutes
balls.
long. Yeah, they're smaller than the
They're
adult
smaller. They're
ones.
size 2, not size 3.
Yeah, and then by under 15s, they then play like pretty much the normal rule set with 8-minute halves, but the games are still only 2 minute long instead of 3 minutes,
Yeah,
and then they
we
play
also
with the
play a
small
bit
ones.
shorter.
Yeah,
That's different, yeah. But that's
yeah.
also just because we don't have the sports hall for that long.
Oh.
So we can just fit in those few games so that all the kids can play, but not everybody can play as long.
Yeah,
But yeah, if we have time, they also play 40 minutes.
yeah, that's
Very
pretty good.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from a personal curiosity level, like, so you're coaching the juniors. Do you coach anywhere else in league, or is it just the juniors you help coach?
I do the juniors and sometimes also the men's second team.
Okay, so what's been your route into coaching, and like from, I
As-
guess I want to try and understand, like, how do you guys coach women's, and how do women get into coaching, because it can be quite difficult to, make sure that you've got all the different voices in the coaching space, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think you think about it more professionally than it is. It's just who is able to do that, who has the experience to do that, who has the time also at a league day to do that, who knows the people and knows what they can do, and then that person does it basically. So it's not about like I am a coach and that's why I do it. So
Sounds good. Yeah, I know, because we hear like we have to do qualifications and things to like ish. Yeah, it depends what kind of, like, there's coaches for teams, which is like if you're going to be in the box and help a team out or help a team member out, you can do that without a qualification. That's just helping out. But if you're like running a session, like a training session and things like that, then there's like British dodgeball training that we undergo. But we make sure that we've got like enough approved coaches that can help run sessions. So that's quite
and what
interesting.
does qualify you as a coach? And who
Uh,
approves you?
Well, it's essentially like a training course of how to like make training accessible to different people, and to make sure it's varied. But it's more about general coaching tips in general, or how you train people. So it's more about, if say you're a PE teacher in your school, how do you try and coach different areas of the game. It doesn't really help with like more tactics or anything like that. With that, you kind of like actually have to be well in tune with the game, like really watch it and be a good coach in that sense. And that's kind of seen as slightly differently within, I think, within Britain. Maybe I'm talking slightly wrong, but I mean that's from my experience of like we have coaches that like are taught to become coaches and how to run sessions, and then you have coaches that are like tactical coaches, I guess is the way I say it.
Yeah, I think we're just lucky to have many people that studied sports, and many people that are teachers. So I think that's a good mix, or people that are sports teachers as well. So I think that's a good mix and seems to work.
Yeah, that definitely probably helps. Whereas I don't know, like I think a lot of us are like that we work in STEM, like I think a lot of us in general, like science, technology, engineering and maths, like those kinds of areas. There's still quite a few teachers. There are going to be a few people in the comment section going like, I'm a teacher, but yes, no, there are still definitely.
There was that message in the British dodgeball community where somebody was like, "Are all dodgeballers teachers?" And there was it turns out that like I think it's also that I think it's similar to like how you bring in your friends and stuff, is that you tend to like attracts like. So I think certain like clubs end up with like loads of people that do STEM, but then some of the others end up with loads of people that are teachers. So I think it depends, but yeah, I think Nottingham is quite STEM heavy.
It depends on the university as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I think in Dodgeball Austria, it's like teachers, sports scientists, and physios.
Physios is a good one to have.
Sounds like you just sort of accidentally like recruited everyone perfectly for like setting up a sports team. Like you need people to look after people to teach other people, and people who are good at the sport. Like, you know, like of the three sort of key areas that you need for creating a team, you've kind of got them all covered there.
Yeah.
No, good going.
Yeah, I think the physio thing is because Stefan is a physio, Stefan Leitinger, and he did a dodgeball like course at his university. So that's why so many physios played dodgeball after that.
Oh wow.
That's very cool. That is a very cool way of recruiting people. Get dodgeball into universities as a course. That's a good way to recruit people. I'll be honest, I don't have many more topics to cover. Is there any other questions that you guys want to ask or talk about? Any other experiences that you want to talk about? What you're looking forward to in dodgeball? Obviously, we talked about Worlds. Any other sides of women's dodgeball, mixed dodgeball? Go on and on. Cool. We'll keep it like relatively short to an hour then. Like and send this to Max and there'll
I
be.
think it's better to keep it a bit shorter because I have to admit, like 2 hour podcast, even though you're interested in the topic, is long.
Yeah.
Don't know what you're talking about. 2 hours minimum. Yeah, it depends who you talk to.
Talk about dodgeball for 2 hours straight, no problem. But like listen to it.
Yeah, particularly if you're trying to get people from outside of dodgeball to pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Cool. Well, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us, Annika, and good luck with everything in Worlds and at the Junior European Championship as well.
Yes.
I hope that goes well. And you're midway through the Austrian season? Is that for the national season, or is that?
Yes. I think finals are in May.
Cool. Well, good luck to Nasties in that, and I hope everything goes well.
Thank you.
Big shout out to them and all the other Vienna clubs and everything that's going on in Dodgeball Austria. But yes, for those of you who've been listening, thank you for listening. Give a like and subscribe. There will be plenty more content. We are looking at trying to get a episode out a month. Touch wood. I don't have to hand what will be happening next month, but there will definitely be something. And it'll be, I think Max is hosting that one. I can't remember. But stay tuned and go, if you haven't already, go listen to all the other content that the European Dodgeball Federation have put out there, including last year's Euros and previous Euros. So if you want to go see what we've been talking about and some of the clips that we've been showing, then feel free to go and watch some of that, because it will be very entertaining. We were definitely entertained for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Until next time.
Bye.
Yeah.